We have with us at this point in time Mr. Sunil Munjal, Joint MD at FIEO MotoCorp, to give us his reaction to the foreign trade policy. And Mr. Munjal, great to have you on the show. You yourself are looking at new markets for exports. You've spoken on record about Sri Lanka and Africa being really the main centers as far as export growth for FIEO MotoCorp is concerned. How do you review the foreign trade policy and its details?
I think there are two or three very interesting things in this policy. The first one I would say is continuity, because I said this policy will get reviewed only after 2.5 years. So there is predictability about the policy now for the next 3 years or so. I think that's a good feature. Second is they've cut down on EPCG by 25%, which would encourage procurement of capital goods and equipment from within the country itself, which under the Make in India, I think it's a smart move. Also categorizing all of the incentives under two buckets makes it easier to work on each one of them. I think it's also a very good idea to involve the states in both growing, encouraging and incentivizing exports, because so far all of this work is only being done at the center, whereas the actual manufacturing or service generation takes place in the states. So making states a partner in this entire initiative, I think is a very good idea. So I would say all in all, it's a welcome policy. It's a well-designed policy, the implementation of which would allow people over time to get to new markets and to focus on also building the India brand. You know, we've talked of building the India brand for a while, but clearly there is serious work yet to be done there.
Sure, but Mr. Munjal, given the current environment where global growth and world trade is not likely to pick up, and India's contribution, or really India's position as a percentage is just about 3% of world trade, so it's fairly minuscule. Correct. You're right, you need to do a fair amount of branding there, but how much more of this demand for Indian exports really depends on what we are doing on domestic turf to make our exports more competitive? How much is it linked really to the quality of exports that go out versus what happens with the currency? Because that's been a key variable that's drawn interest from other emerging markets where the currencies have fallen more than what the Indian rupee has done.
So there are three parts to this. One is our own competitiveness as a nation which produces goods and services. That is obviously always going to be critical. And India over the last decade or so has learned to get better and better. Over the last 2 decades actually, India is getting better. But you're absolutely right. It's our exchange rate against those of the countries we are exporting to, and also those of the countries that we are competing against for the same export markets has an impact on this. And the third big factor is the state of the economy in our target markets. If the state of the economy there is weak, as it has been now for some time, the markets there have actually shrunk quite significantly, which is why I said what I did earlier, that it's a smart idea to diversify our market away from only our traditional focus on Europe and the Middle East. We need to have a much more diversified basket of markets, including starting to focus on China as a market. I think India has never looked at China as a real market. We've only looked at China as a threat or competition. But some of the Indian products have got quite good and quite competitive. And China's own costs are going up. So I think it's time for us to really get bold and brave and look at new markets, including China now.
On that point of market diversification, since for FIEO MotoCorp as well, you're looking at newer markets, the big talking point is Africa, really, more penetration there, more expansion there. And for your own company, I mean, you have entered into Sri Lanka. What kind of market diversification do you see, depending on, of course, specific to your business, do you see helping bring about a pickup in exports?
Well, for our company, as you know, most of this is diversification. We were only exporting to a very small handful of countries till only 2 years ago. We've added 20 plus new markets in our portfolio over the last 2 years, which was quite ambitious, but we were fortunate to manage to get there. So for us, this is clearly a growth opportunity. As we get into those new markets, we are seeing growth there. We are focusing on building a good set of distribution, points in those places, good logistics, and also brand building. So the market for us is only now expanding in all of these new markets, which are spread across different geographies. They're not only in Africa and Sri Lanka. They are actually across multiple continents. It's also, it's also in Latin America, it's in South America, it's in Central America, it's across the continents actually right now.
Anything else that you had hoped to hear within this policy framework? It's been fairly generic. I know some specifics have been made, the broad schemes have been diluted to, only categorize them between merchandise exports and services exports. So some streamlining there, streamlining in the thought process as well. Anything else that you expected to hear from the policy?
So a number of industry sectors were looking at specific focus on their own industry verticals. Now, instead of doing that, they've, as you said, created two baskets. Frankly, to my mind, it's much simpler to do this. It reduces room for confusion. While we might miss out on addressing some specific areas, either those that have great potential to be leading industry verticals for India, or those which are suffering some weakness because of our environment, circumstances, intermediation cost, etc. Those are the two kinds of areas that these policies have typically addressed, in addition to providing incentives for diversifying markets to new ones. So while they have done the second one, but in the first one they've made it simpler. So I would say all in all, it's as I said, it's a good policy, and the result, of course, time will tell, but I think it's a good initiative.
Mr. Munjal, stay on with us. We have another important voice coming in as a reaction to this policy. Mr. C. Relhan, who's president at the Federation of Indian Exporters Organization. Mr. Relhan, good to have you on the show. First up, your quick reaction. I know the focus is on exports, but in an environment where global growth is slowing, world trade is stepping back a bit, it gets even harder to push for export revenues.
Actually, overall, they have tried to reduce the transaction cost. Overall, they have tried to simplify. They have clubbed all the scripts together. Hello, do you hear me? No, the sound is gone.
Mr. Relhan, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, actually overall, yes, the policy is good. They have reduced the paperwork, they have gone online, they have even some of the big issue was the lending certificate for the that they have allowed the self-certification, and a lot of good things. I mean, even the certificate by the CA, application by the CA, lot of good things are happened. Then the chapter 3 has been simplified. They have clubbed lot of products together. It's absolutely a very new idea. Certainly, we'll have to go in details. Only then we will able to react in details. But at the moment, it looks that the EXIM policy is good. It will certainly facilitate, reduce the transaction cost. It will help the exporters to concentrate more, but we will expecting slightly more. The interest subvention was a major issue. I think the government must consider that. They must allow that. The Commerce Secretary has talked about, but I think they will later on they will come out with the interest subvention. That's very much required, and we hope they come out right from 1st April 2014. Yeah.
Sure. Mr. Munjal, before we let you go, and Mr. Relhan, we want you to be with us, for a few more reaction bites. But Mr. Munjal, before we let you go, I just wanted a quick perspective on free trade agreements. Now, there was already talk about how there needs to be a greater use of free trade agreements to the benefit of India. So far it seems like the agreements that we have in place are only enhancing our trade deficits. It's not really working in favor of enhancing export revenues for us. Do you think that that's also an area that needs to be worked on?
I think for sure, by the way, this is an area which industry has been saying now for a while, that we need to be careful where we make preferential or free trade agreements. And the preferred route is actually a preferential trade agreement rather than a free trade agreement, where you can control how much you give away, what kind of duties you finally have as terminal duties. And we should also try and negotiate them to the benefit of Indian economy and Indian industry. So that overall as a country, we stand to benefit, because there's always going to be some give and take. You give some, you get some. But the skill lies in negotiating them in a manner in those countries where you stand to gain more than otherwise. And I think that realization today clearly was mentioned in the speech as well. I mean, the government also now agrees with the industry point of view that we need to be careful where we do these. We are in any case not becoming part of the new mega agreements that are being signed across the world, which by the way is a risk that we stand to lose from in case we get left out of the major agreements. So we have to get smart about this to figure out where our big benefits lie and do that in a little bit of a hurry now.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Thanks
very much, Mr. Munjal, for joining us with your quick reaction to the new foreign trade policy that was unveiled. In fact, Mr. Relhan, I just want to come to you on that very point. Do you think that, we need to tighten the screws as far as some of the existing free trade agreements are concerned? And also, if you're looking at market diversification and entering new markets, then we need to be a bit more creative and perhaps a bit more careful with the kind of agreements we enter into to enhance exports from the new markets as well.
Can you just repeat the question a bit low?
Okay, I'll repeat. I was just talking about
how... Too loud.
Okay, I was just asking you, Mr. Relhan, about how do you think the government should go about structuring its new free trade agreements, since they're talking about accessing new markets to enhance exports?
Actually, they should come out with the policy of allowing even the small exporters in participation in the exhibitions. I mean, and we can work out on that. We'll certainly sit with them. It has not been clarified so far in the policy because there was shortage of time. We have to work, but certainly I'll again say this is a good policy even for the SEZ, because the Chapter 3 was not permissible for the SEZ. They have allowed that. I think it will certainly help in the growth of exports from the country.
Right, Mr. Relhan. Before we let you go, just a couple of quick reactions, and also on market diversification. Since that's the topic that we've been touching upon with our other guests, do you think that the markets addressed, whether it's Africa, whether it's Southeast Asia, some of the other new markets that have been brought under the purview of market expansion, this West Asia, Latin America, that there is enough demand there to help our export growth?
No, there is a lot of demand in Latin America at the moment. South Asia is a good market, emerging market. Absolutely, yes, there is a lot of chance for the increase in exports from that area. Absolutely, there is a chance. I mean, now what exactly the details they have given in the policy, we'll have to look into that.
Okay, so to your mind, as we wrap up, how would you summarize this policy? Yes, it's a policy in the right direction. But do you think it is an effective way to enhance India's export revenues? Because right now we're really lagging behind on that front. Of course, part of the reason is the currency withstanding a lot of the pressure against the dollar. But intrinsically as well, we haven't really been able to brand ourselves and market ourselves as a core export nation.
Actually, currency devaluation, the exporters are very comfortable as far as the dollar is concerned. Yes, we are concerned with the euro. That's already decreased by almost more than 20%. And Russia was a big market. I think we have to sit together with the Ministry of Commerce on that and give them the detailed report so that we are able to explore the market much more effectively, and we should be able to increase the exports.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.